This overlap of interest is most strong in control image societies, but is manifest in various ways everywhere. So, governments utilize the mass media as information channels through direct ownership and control, or through regulation and purchase of media resources. Planners in education and development agencies seek to use the mass media for their own purposes. So, mass media planning seeks to allocate and use mass media resources to achieve a range of communication goals. Okay. Now, mass media planners work with communication planners from other systems to achieve this variety of goals, representing and allocating mass media resources in the context of bargaining and negotiation. Telecommunication planners create resources for others to use, but do not use them themselves for the various communication goals. Now, mass media planners utilize resources for themselves, okay, primarily in achieving information goals, as in news programming and writing, okay, but they also share these resources with other systems, right? Now, the scope of mass media planning is broad indeed, okay. In different societies, social image and different system perspective or levels of planning, you can put it that way, combine in different ways, leading to different kinds of planning. Now, this of course is complicated further by the fact that there are numerous mass media organizations or systems. And like I've said, the mass media has the potential to accomplish all communication goals if wisely and imaginatively used, especially in combination with other communication system resources such as interpersonal communication. So, as the examples have been given, okay, illustrations only of this broad scope. Okay, high level or national system, say perspective on mass media planning, is found in both developed and developing countries. Okay, um, in many developing countries, a government press and a broadcasting system coexist with the regulated private systems. For instance, in United States, broadcasting is regulated by policy, and both broadcasting and the press are in sense planned through the nation's legal system through such instruments as libel laws. Below this level, mass media organizations plan their strategies within whatever set of policies, regulations, and constraints may be operating in the society. Of considerable interest are the differing ways in which mass media system planners work with planners in other communication systems to make mass media resources available to achieve a variety of goals such as education and persuasion. Okay. Now, in many developing countries, government agencies in education or in one of the many development programs either purchase radio airtime with commercial stations or compete with each other for scarce airtime on the national radio network. So, in many countries, communication planners in development agencies provide to the press and to magazines news releases and feature articles designed to support the achievement of their system goals. In some cases, development agencies create their own mass media, okay, like newspapers or magazines or radio broadcasting stations to carry out their work. Okay. Now, mass media planning also takes place at a local level in systems which provide sufficient independence of action to permit this. Local newspapers and broadcasting stations, which is both radio and television, respond to community needs with planned communication resources. Okay, examples of this can actually be found in many countries. Okay, like in the Philippines, provincial radio stations work with family planning communication planners to develop programs. Okay. In the United States, community radio or television stations and newspapers as well work closely with agricultural extension services to provide a broad range of farm and community development information resources. Okay. Mass media planners tend to have backgrounds in journalism or broadcasting, and occasionally, say principally in broadcasting organizations, okay, they have backgrounds in engineering. So they tend to evaluate the success of their planning by such criteria as the size of the audience they reach. Right? Commercial mass media organizations rely heavily, of course, on sales figures and the margin of profit in assessing the value of their output to the environment. Okay, now let's move on to the next kind of planning. This is the educational media planning. Okay, now telecommunication and mass media planners are defined primarily by the nature of the communication resources they create, allocate, or utilize. Whereas the educational media planners, on the other hand, are defined by their emphasis on the particular communication goal, that of education. Okay? They plan for the creation and utilization of communication resources of all kinds. They create communication resources in the form of software for media, textbooks, and teaching aids, and in a sense, when they train teachers. Okay? They utilize the resources of both telecommunication and mass media systems. They even create mass media resources as when an educational broadcasting system is developed and managed by an educational agency, or when an educational software development center is built. So, educational media planners are generally employed in education ministries or educational development agencies, right? So, thus their planning perspective tends to be on large, complex systems. There are many non-formal educational efforts which utilize media, and planners for this type of project may be found in almost any type of ministry, often with more restricted system perspectives. Social images affect educational media planning in interesting ways. Okay, in many countries with consensus social images, education is decentralized. For example, in the United States and Canada. Okay, educational media planners plan their work with sub-national perspectives. In other, more centralized societies, they tend to operate with a national perspective. Even there, however, the desire to create materials that are effective in local areas often leads to attempts to plan from more local perspectives. So, there is a heavy emphasis in educational media planning on integrated use of two principal communication systems, which is the mass media, and the second one is the interpersonal communication. Okay, now the integration of these two systems comes principally through the underlying theories of learning and instruction, which guide educational media planners in creating patterns for system utilization. Now, the same theories are applied in the design of an instructional radio program and in the design of a training course as well.